Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Jim Coppinger with Zentech Consultants, and today we're going to be talking about building corridors out of feature lines in Civil 3D. Um, Before we jump into the presentation today, just a couple things. Number one, I want to apologize in advance. I'm fighting a little bit of a head cold, so if I sound a little froggy or wheezy, I am sorry about that. I'll do my best to minimize the distractions and the noises as we go through this. Um, if you guys take a look, you have chat boxes and a question box that you can use to ask questions as we go through the presentation. Because we are running on a limited time schedule here today, I'm not going to answer those questions in real time as we go, but I have a little bit of time at the end of the class. You'll see we get to that slide to actually answer any questions or concerns that you guys might have. So you just go ahead and type them as we go, and I'll address all questions at the end. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and get into today's presentation. All right. So for those of you who have not worked with us before, we're Zentech Consultants, and we are experts in the CAD side, particularly civil, the architecture, engineering, construction firm. But we do quite a lot more than that. We're Bluebeam partners, Microsoft partners, and a dozen others, BricsCAD and whatever else. And when it comes to dealing with the AEC community and the manufacturing space, we're here to help you guys with all of your technology, software, training, sales, and support, and development and customization needs. So we hope you'll hit our website, see all the great things we can do for you. All right, so today, like I said, we're going to be talking about developing our corridors using feature lines as opposed to the more traditional alignments and profiles. And I guess the question that I usually get whenever I do this presentation, everybody wants to know, well, what's wrong with using alignments and profiles? And the answer is nothing at all. It works perfectly fine, right? So most of us learned and we began our process of working with corridors in Civil 3D using alignments and their associated profile. Right, we cut the alignments to get the plan view, maybe do some widenings or offset alignments, and then we go to the profile and handle vertical control of the center lines. And that's pretty typical process, and it works just fine. The thing is, though, is that it is a little bit time consuming. There are a lot of steps in there. You're talking about running 5 or 6 different commands. Each one can take 15 or so minutes. So you're getting in, developing an alignment, laying out an alignment, labeling an alignment, assigning elevations to your alignment, or if you're going to go that route of doing offsets and widenings from the alignments, and then getting in and generating a profile and generating your profile view and on, there's a lot that goes into that. Right? And I guess when you're doing a real, a full-blown, highly detailed design, it's very useful. It is very nice to have those profiles. But when you're in a hurry, right, and I find that this works particularly well for preliminary design, getting client approval, doing some quick cut and fill calcs on a site to see whether or not it's worthwhile to work with. Quick changes, just give me an idea of what would happen if we moved the road here or did this or that. That, I think, is where the feature line can be much faster and much easier. Once you kind of figure out how to work with the feature lines for developing your corridors, they work, I think, a lot more quickly because they use more native 2D drafting commands. It's a little bit more intuitive for the end user. They're able to just go in, click the feature line, either go to the elevation editor or just grip edit and throw some extra points in. It's a lot simpler to go in and modify feature lines and update your corridors than it is to be able to go in and actually do all of that through the alignments and the profile view. So that's kind of why I want to show you this. So again, nothing wrong with the way you're doing it today. This is just an alternative, right? It's like traveling to the grocery store. There are 100 different ways to get there. None of them are wrong. Just depends on which way you're trying to get there and work with it today. All right, so with that said, we're going to get into a little demo. We're actually going to do this. All right, we'll go through the process of starting with a basic feature line in Civil 3D, and I'll kind of take you guys through the whole process and show you how easy it is to actually build that. All right, so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump over to Civil 3D and we can see how the process works. All right, so you can see that here on my screen, I've got a real basic drawing. What I've got is just a simple surface, right? And here I've got a feature line, just a basic feature line. All I did was just run a feature line. For demonstration purposes today, again, they said working with things that are quick. All I did was just run a standard polyline, create a feature line from that polyline and give it surface elevations plus 6 feet. So basically this line is riding 6 feet higher than the existing surface underneath it, all the way down. That's all I did. All right, simple feature line. And again, this could be any 2D layout that you already have, which like I said, a lot of times is where we're all beginning. Right? We did our 2D alignment, our 2D layout. Now we're ready to go ahead and work with those. Okay. All right. So the first thing that I also, oh, I'm sorry, I almost forgot to mention. The other thing that I have in here is just a very simple assembly. I have one assembly for building a corridor, right? And it's a very basic assembly, just, typical roadway, sidewalk on the sides. I'm sloping to a surface, right? And the big thing here is that I put in today, just so we can see how we can work with targets, right? Both vertical and horizontal targets when we're dealing with feature lines as well, right? I've got transitioning roadways. In other words, these edges of the roadway, my edge of pavement line here will flex in, out, up, down as I need to, right? Those are in the controls of the assembly. All right, so I have a basic corridor assembly, no different than the corridor assemblies you guys would work with, on any other corridor. All right, so the one thing I do want to stress here is that this feature line starts, right? And the direction you draw your feature line is important. It starts up here. This is where I started drawing that feature line, the original polyline. All right, and that's going to be important because it's going to determine the left and right sides of our roadways. All right, we're starting there and we're going in the order of increasing station. So the left side is going to be kind of on the top of my screen and the right side of the road is going to be down here. Okay. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do here is show you guys how easy it is to handle things like roadway widenings and doing stepped offsets and kickouts and turns, right? So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click on the feature line. Okay. And on this feature line, down here at the bottom, I have the ability to use the stepped offset command. Usually if I was going to do this, if I wanted to create a full travel, edge of pavement travel way for turnouts and bus lanes and turn in and turn out lanes, I get into alignments and creating alignment widenings and offsets, etc. Those are 2 or 3 different commands. Here I can just go to the stepped offset command. Right, and you see it says, okay, specify your offset distance. So I'm going to throw a 30-foot wide road. I'm going to throw 15 feet on each side. Right, and I'm just going to go to that side. Right, and it asks you, right, how do you get the elevation difference? Well, I'm going to do it by grade, and I'm going to give it a minus 2% grade across. Okay, and you see it creates it. And I'm just going to go over and do the same thing on the other side. And I just hit enter to recreate the road. Okay, and just like that, I have 2 offset, right, feature lines. Right, so now I've got 3 feature lines that I can use to work my roadway. Here's my center line, right, and then I've got these 2 edge of pavement lines that I can use. Now the reason I did that is because what I'm going to do is show you that it's a very easy thing. And this is one of the things I like about it as opposed to using alignments and widenings and working strictly with feature lines, is when I've got to do bends and turnouts and weird conditions, right, along my roadways, it's much easier to work with feature lines. So for example, I can just come here and I'm clicking on this, the left side feature line, and I'm going to insert a PI. And I'm just going to put some real quick turnouts here. And I'm actually going to let it read the surface. I'm actually going to change the elevation down to the surface there and over here. Same thing. I'm just going to pull from the underlying surface. Okay. So you see how it was very easy for me, right? And then I'm done. I can just go and end that. Now you see I was able to take the edge of my road, maybe got like a bus turnout lane or a scenic overlook thing. I got something that kicks out that way. So I need my road to widen. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to insert a PI, right, out here. And again, right, I'll just grab it from the surface. Right, and I'm going to put another one all the way out here, just doing like some kind of a parking area or something. Right, and again, I'll pull my line from the surface here. And I'm doing it from the underlying surface so that it'll have a drop. So you see when we do this, it'll have a dramatic drop. So you can see that very quickly I can go in and adjust to any underlying components I might have and set the elevations very easily and use all of my basic feature line controls to do that. Okay. All right, so now that's it. We've got our 3 feature lines, right? We've got our road. We know where our road's going to widen out. Right, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to start creating a corridor. All I have to do is just go to corridor. Right, I'm on the home tab. Go to the corridor. And what I'm going to do here is you see down here in the middle, this is what most people miss. Your baseline type. Most of us, the default is alignment and profile. We never change this, but we can. We can use feature lines instead of alignments and profiles. Right? Alignments, when you think about it, it gives you 0 elevation alignment, and then all of your vertical elevations are handled in the profile. Well, feature lines are 3-dimensional lines. They've already got the horizontal and the vertical in this one item. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set my site to propose design, which is where this feature line exists. Now you see it, I'm using my example road center line. Right, that's the first one I began with. The assembly, I only have one in here. It's called example road. That's this one I created over here. And I'm going to use my existing grade as my target surface. That's this underlying gray contouring structure that you see. Right, and I'll just go ahead and I'll just call this my example corridor, just for fun today. Right, so I just said the basic structures. I'm not going to get too detailed into this and just say, okay. And just like that, it's generating for me a corridor. Now, at this point, I didn't have to go in and have to second alignment and a profile and use, and assign things. I don't have to do anything other than assign an assembly. But what I can do here is just like I would do with any other corridor, I can go ahead and set all my frequencies. All right, so I'm going to do all of my standard frequencies along tangents at 50 feet. I'll do my all of my curves at a 5-foot increment just so I get nice smooth transitions. Okay, so I'm setting my vertical and horizontal curves at 5 feet. Right, the other thing that I can do here, right, and this is why I took the time to build these two offset feature lines, right, is that now I can go and I can set my targets. Okay, and again, we're used to targets, right, being alignments, but targets can be feature lines exactly the way that you can use a feature line as your center line of road. So here you see I'm already targeting my surface targets going to my existing surface, right? And here I got my width and my elevation targets, my horizontal and my vertical. So I go in here and when I click, you see here's the right side. And it's very important that you watch over here, this third column, the assembly group, which side of the road you're selecting. Okay, and remember we said about where the feature line started. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to set the transition alignment for the right side. I'm just going to click here. And you see that one of the things I can do up here on the top is I can switch from alignments, which is the default that most of us are used to doing. We go in and we add our profiles and alignments. Here I can just do it feature lines, surveys, figures, or polylines. And I can just select those right from the drawing. And now I can go in and say, okay, this is the right side. So again, this is where my road started. So the right side is on the bottom of the screen. This is my right side target for horizontal. Okay, and I'll just name the feature line using the defaults. Okay, and I can rename those, later. Now I want to do the horizontal on the left side. Again, I'm just going to select it from the drawing. Here, there's the left side. Okay, and I'll just name the feature line with the defaults. And I can do exactly the same thing with my verticals. And this is where I think it really has the biggest benefit in moving off of working with the profiles. A lot of us really struggle with our edge of pavement profiles when the elevations at the edge of pavement are different from a steady controlled slope. Getting the profiles and putting multiple profile lines in to try and edit that, it confuses people and it really slows down the process. Whereas here, all I did was, remember, I added the surface elevations, right? I just tied those extra points down at the existing ground surface to show, you'll see some pretty sharp slopes in that area, right? So I can just go in and do the same thing. See, I just set it for feature lines, and I'm going to select from the drawing, right? And you see, same thing, I'm on the right side. So what I'm doing here is now I'm having, instead of just stretching out, so here in the horizontal, it's going to stretch my road to be wider, right? But remember, I set this to drop deeper, so it tied to the surface at these points. Now it's going to stretch down in elevation as well, just by picking this feature line. Okay, same thing here. Just going to go in, select from drawing, do the left side. Right, now I have it tied and I've targeted both the horizontal and the verticals, not a single profile in sight. Okay, very quick, very easy to work that way. And now I can just go ahead and say, okay. Right, and once I have that done, I can just go ahead once I'm past that point, okay, and just say, okay, and rebuild my corridor. Right, it takes a second. There we go. Right, and you see, just like you would normally expect, now you've got a fully developed corridor. Right, and look, no alignments, no profiles to be found anywhere within this drawing. Right, and you see that it's laying out like you would normally expect. To see, I'm going every 50 feet here on my tangents. Right, and I got the extra 5-foot sections to get nice smooth transitions. Right, and you'll notice over here, right, in the widened areas, you can actually see how my curb turns out and follows my little return areas that I put in out here and out here. See how that roadway widens itself? I didn't have to go through all of the hoops and creating, going to alignments, right? Creating offset alignments, then going to them and creating widenings and setting widenings by station and depth. I could just go in and just click and drag, add PIs, change elevations, do whatever I need to do, right? Using those feature lines, and I get, right, my 3D corridor. So if I go and take a look at this, oh, well, I'll stop that. Do that again. Go to my object viewer. All right, let me bring that back up onto the screen. All right, and I'm just going to kind of tilt our 3D surface up here, right, and zoom in a little bit, right, and pan down. All right, and you can see the area where I widened it out. Right, and you can see that not only did it transition for me, right, horizontally, right, which is what we expected. So I just got to move a little bit slow on this one. It's a bigger corridor, so it's taking a little bit. But you see that what also happened in here, you see how it actually also dropped the elevations at those points where I said at this corner and at this corner I said drop the elevation instead of say shoot it down to the existing ground. So it dramatically, see the slope down here, the 2 points that I put on each side, it dropped it to the elevation. So it's following the feature lines and it's stretching my roadway, not just horizontally to get my lane widths, it's also stretching it down vertically, right, to match up with the elevations on these outer feature lines, right, which is really, really nice. We're able to get, with just, throwing in those feature lines, we can go in and we can modify and work with those. Right? And then the great thing is we can go in and we can do all of our standard modifications. At this point, it is a full-blown corridor, like any other corridor that you made from alignments and profiles, right? Where you can go in now and modify your corridor properties, change the assemblies, change the parameters, add regions and baselines, and you can do all of the standard things that you would do, right? There is no difference once the corridor itself is built. It's just about the base underlying information that you work with when you're generating those. Okay, so it's a real simple thing. So like I said, just kind of recap, all I normally will do is, whenever I have a 2D layout, right, go in, do your 2D layout. Like in a case like this, I just, maybe I'm doing a, fill it with a radius, right? Sorry, right, of 150, right? Set a polyline, it's like so, right, just to generate a line. And all you have to do is just go into your feature line. So again, if that's like a 2D layout of your center line, you're pretty sure that's where you want it. Right? I'm just going to go in there and go to my feature lines, create my feature line from object, and maybe our design, right, for preliminary, we're saying, hey, what we're probably going to do here, right? I'm going to put it in the proposed drainage site or the proposed design site, right? What I'm probably going to do here, see, I'm going to erase the existing line. I'm going to assign elevations and say, what we're going to do, I want to start from the surface and I'm going to go relative to that. We're probably going to dig into this hill 4 feet. So I can just go in and put -4. That's going to set every elevation in here at -4, and I'm inserting intermediate grade breakpoints so that every place that now, and it just converted it. So you see all these circles, every place where that crossed the triangle in my surface, it's 4 feet below the surface. So if I go in and actually go to my object viewer here, that quick and easy, right? I've got a preliminary setup, and you can see, if we kind of look underneath, you can kind of see it. Hopefully I can get it to tilt a little bit so you can see it. Let's tilt it down, it's a little hard. There we go. See, it's about 4 feet underneath. You can see that my line is about 4 feet underneath the existing road right there, so you can kind of see it. Okay, so it just dropped down the surface 4 feet down. And then from there, like I said, I create offsets to the side for my widenings using feature lines and process the corridor exactly as we talked about. So it's a great simple way to be able to go in and very quickly and easily edit, modify, build your corridors. Right? Feature lines are a great tool for this. I'm a big fan. Okay, all right. So with that, I'm gonna jump back to the slideshow. I'm gonna take a look at some questions. Okay, so it looks like I only have one question today, and that question is from Cynthia. And Cynthia wants to know, what happens when you edit the feature lines? Great question, right? And I did actually mean to talk about that, so good catch, Cynthia. When you edit the feature lines, right, that's one of the beautiful parts about this. When I go in and if I modify the center line, the elevations here, right, if I go into like my elevation editor, right, for this whole corridor, right, and I can go and I can modify the individual elevations, or I can do a select all, right, I can go in and select everything, right, and drop the whole thing down, by a foot, okay, and keep going, right, drop them all down by a couple of feet. See, I'm dropping it down the elevation 4 foot, 3 feet, right, I dropped that whole thing down 3 feet, right. Once I do that, I've modified the underlying control line, right, and you'll see that your corridor is now out of date. Right, so now I can just go in and I can rebuild my corridor, and you'll see that the elevations will change a little bit. And I'm dropping it 3 feet. I don't know that'll change that dramatically, right? But you can see that it's got a little bit of a shorter throw on the slopes, right? But I dropped that down 3 feet. So changing the elevations is not a problem. The one thing to be aware of when you are dealing with this, particularly if you're working, Cynthia, with offsets, is that while I can go in and if I change the feature line and I move it and I grip edit it, just like I would in alignment, 2 things to be aware of. Number one, unlike an alignment, which automatically puts in the radial turns, when I modify this center line, you see that it doesn't actually make a new radial structure to it, right? You see, it's got a non-tangential bend to it now. That's a limitation of it. The other thing you'll notice is that my 2 offset lines are not linked to my center line. So if I do need to make a change to the center line through a feature line, I will also have to make the same change to my 2 offset lines in order to get my corridors to go to where I want them, right? So if I wanted to pull, that one over to here, right? And then I go ahead and pull the other one, over to wherever I want it over here, okay? And then I can go ahead and rebuild my corridor, right? And that should update to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Come on, there we go, okay? Right, but you can see how it actually restretch itself in that way, and you see how it's a non-tangential curve. So like I said, it's not as robust in terms of overall long-term detailed design, but for speed and getting good, easy, reliable, quick corridors, the feature lines are the way to go. Right? So with that, I don't see any other questions. So again, I hope you guys will, hit our website. Hope you got some good info today, something you can take back and put to work on your projects. And I hope you remember that we do quite a lot more than just Civil 3D, although we are Civil 3D experts. And if you guys do have anything that we can help you with, you can always reach out to us. All our information is up here on screen. You can call us, hit our website, or reach out and email sales@zentechconsultants.net. And if you do, I hope you guys will take a look at our Civil 3D Kickstart program. It's a series of predefined Civil 3D templates for all kinds of work that can really make your life a lot easier. Other than that, I want to thank you guys for spending the time today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.